What's going on, guys? It's All Seeing Nap. Welcome back to another one of my videos. I really wanted to talk about issues I have with Red Dead Redemption 2 with you all and discuss why I think these issues are issues, why and how they affect my experience with the game. Please note that I'm aware that the issues that I present in this video aren't issues others may agree or issues according to them, and that I'm not trying to say these issues affect the game for me to such a degree that it negatively impacts the overall experience. I just felt like it would be interesting to bring to light what I believe could use improvements, adjustments, or be outright removed to make this game that I know and love so much a little bit better. I also don't think these issues should be swept under the rug just because the game is so impressive as is, because it's important that we're honest with ourselves and understand that not everything can be perfect, no matter how much we may be inclined to think so. If you guys have any issues of your own you'd like to share in addition to mine, or disagree with any I've listed here, please let me know in the comments. And please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, or share, as it helps my channel's growth immensely and lets me know the type of content you guys like to see. So let's dispense with the introductions now and get straight into it. Number 1, John Morgan. The first issue I have with Red Dead Redemption 2 is this bizarre thing that's been dubbed John Morgan among the community. Now, John Morgan is often referred to as the pedestrian model for John Marston in the epilogue of the game. You know, once the actual game rolls credits, there's a few hours of content that lets you play as John Marston, which is meant to tie him in with Red Dead Redemption 1, to flesh out what he did right after the game broke up and before he found himself in the clutches of the law. Now John Marston here looks drastically different from his 1899 prologue model, which is something many players, including myself, have taken issue upon noticing. With a squarer jawline, modified hair and build, it's clear to see that this particular model of John is really just a reskin version of Arthur Morgan. Whether the development team did this on purpose to cut corners, perhaps because they didn't have time to model in a different, more faithful appearance to John, or whether it was an oversight, something I really doubt considering the immaculate detail of full display all over this game in general, I still don't see why they couldn't have just given us at least the greasy hairstyle to make him look a little bit more believable, as John's hair and Arthur's hair are very different, since John was starting to lose his by the time he was 38. With options to play certain missions either as Arthur or John, we also get strange dialogue that's quite out of character for John and sounds more like something Arthur would say in those interactions. Interactions in West Elizabeth, on the other hand, are completely original to John because Arthur isn't meant to travel that far. This sort of thing makes me wish that quests like the Gunslinger were chapter contextual rather than the way they've done it, where they can be picked up almost 7 years later in the future. Canonically, at the time, Jim should have either aged or died. Everyone else changes, however. Number 2, chapter duration and consistency. Chapter 2 has 18 missions, whereas Chapter 4 has only 14. Chapter 5 has 9, and then Chapter 6 jumps back to 19. I wish we sort of had more of an equal amount of missions for each chapter so that it gives us more time to appreciate each and every location we visit within the story. It seems like on the one hand, we stayed at Horseshoe Overlook forever, yet spent a minimal amount of time in Clemens Point. We stay again for a prolonged period of time at Shady Belle, yet arrive and leave quickly from Lakai. I know canonically there are reasons for these inconsistent durations, but I still wish we had more consistency with the amount of missions we get per chapter, because it makes it feel like we get bored of the locations we stay at too much and never get a chance to settle in for the ones we spend very little time at. The Cuban island of Guarma we get marooned on, for me, is especially disappointing, considering there's only 5 missions for that entire location. Yet we stay there for the shortest time, and I don't think I can even remember it being a proper campsite. I wish we had more of a part to play in the Haitian slave revolt, and I wish we got to do something similar with Salazar and the Haitians that we got to do with the Greys and the Braithwaites, trying to play both sides, sabotaging them, cut and running in a thrilling sequence when our plot is discovered, which would have been more suited to the selfish opportunism of the game, especially Dutch. The fault isn't on the developers and writers though. I understand there needed to be cuts made to keep it in with the deadline. Number 3. Offhand holster. Don't get me wrong, the offhand holster is definitely awesome, especially John's, which looks more western and actually matches his belt, but I absolutely despise the fact that you can't remove it. Yes, I'm aware this is an option in Red Dead Redemption 2 Online, but that begs the question, why didn't they also include it in the actual campaign? A lot of times during my second playthrough, both Arthur and John did not have the secondary holster equipped for cutscenes. Whether that was a bug, I'm not 100% sure, but it only made me scratch my head in confusion, considering it didn't really affect the cutscenes. My own way of fixing this, in my opinion, would be that you don't have a secondary gun equipped. For example, either of the handguns on your horse or weapon inventory, then the offhand holsters should just disappear. Hell, I think I would take it a notch further and do the same thing for sidearms. I think it would have been awesome to only have your offhand holster equipped and vice versa. Maybe if you put all of your weapons in your inventory at camp, it removes both weapon holsters entirely, just like John during the beginning of the epilogue. Rockstar has never shied away from opting to not handhold the player. You're given an objective, and however you complete said objective is completely up to you with what you're provided with. So it genuinely irks me to the core that something as basic as removing an offhand holster, especially when you don't even start with one, wasn't considered when the game was released. This conundrum is especially annoying in the late game when you've acquired the Legend of the East satchel and can hold whatever you want. You quite literally don't need any other weapon besides a pistol, despite the game telling you that you need to. It's annoying for outfits to just have an empty holster dangling around in front of you, so I often opt to just put something in it even if I'm not going to use it. Number 4. Camp hair trimming. So, I'm not exactly sure about this one, if it was implemented into Red Dead Redemption 2 Online, but I hate the fact that you can't trim your hair for free at the shaving station at camp. I also don't like the fact that you can't even clean shave your entire face when that's the whole purpose of shaving. I don't think this would obsolete barbers if the trim were to be limited at the shaving station, but the styling of beards were left to barbers. More times than not, I'd be at camp and I'd likely need to shave. Not getting the exact look I wanted, I'd often find myself going out of my way to the nearest town with a barber. Take Valentine for example, which is more or less past roads, so the closest town is still much farther away and way less convenient for something so simple. There were several times where I had just wished I could cut my hair at camp and not have to slog my way to town, especially if it's all I needed to do there. It's a huge waste of my time. Number 5. Knives. I just know this annoys everyone else as much as me, but why the hell did Rockstar not make it optional to store certain types of knives in your weapons inventory? Sometimes I just want to use the wide blade knife. Sometimes I just want to use the vampire dagger. Instead of keeping these items equipped, Rockstar has made it so your default hunting knife is equipped almost every time you get off your horse or cook something. It's frustrating because some of these knives have an aesthetic appeal to them. The handle to the vampire dagger, for example, is extremely ornate and I love the way it looks. The wide blade knife is a bowie knife with a guard, and there's another knife you find stuck in a dead bear which has a bone grip. So it's really unfortunate that you can't keep these knives equipped, or at the very least, store all the ones you don't want equipped in your weapons inventory for another time. This sort of defeats the purpose of even finding them to begin with. I honestly forgot I had them over the course of my time 100%ing the game because I'm just not able to use them half the time. This has been an issue for me for 4 years now, and to my knowledge, Rockstar hasn't bothered fixing it. Number 6. Replayability. Now, I love Red Dead Redemption 2 tremendously, and I've played it twice already in its entirety, of course. But one thing I wish Rockstar would have added was the ability to load up a save or replay a mission, make it more convenient for you to 100% the game. There are certain animals that have to be discovered as Arthur while on Guarma, and Guarma is a small, 5-mission chapter with an extremely dense amount of detail. There really wasn't an incentive to search for animals or acquire materials in Guarma because the main road leads you down to all the missions you need before leaving the island. One could argue that since the map is so small, it should be easy to find all the required animals, but I disagree. In my experience, I was so caught up with everything else I had to do that Guarma completely flew over my head during my second playthrough. There are literal secret hats you can collect too, and that I'd like to carry over the save of my inventory. John's gambler hat, for example. I completely missed it on my first playthrough, and now I can't ever actually get it back because Rockstar doesn't allow mission replay. It cost me so much time to get it back the way I meant to. When I first played the game, I had missed all the gunslinger guns as well as Otis Miller's treasure gun because I was scared that swapping my gun would have meant that I would never get it back. They should have just had it so you pick the gun up so it wouldn't be confusing. I only found out about this after the fact when watching someone else's playthrough. Instead of just loading up saves so I could go back and retrieve them from my account that has the game 100%ed, I was forced to play the game a second time on another account to fix my mistake, just so I didn't have to lose all my progress on my original PlayStation account and restart the entire game. Maybe there's a loophole to this that I'm not aware of, but if there is, let me know in the comments. Number 7. Camp funds and decor. I almost never donated any money to the camp my first go-around. I didn't see the benefit because you could just top up your ammunition, medicine, and consumables from a store. Your gang members never even bother contributing to the camp as much as you do anyway, so the game expects you to just waste all the money yourself. On my second playthrough, I had spent $3,000 on the camp and was left with $1,600, having been bought, resupplied, and restocked everything. So, I can confirm that even after buying everything, the things that say they will increase camp morale and encourage others to donate more mean nothing because they don't donate much. I don't like the feeling that I'm the one burdened with doing the most. Maybe it's because I had already played the game once and knew where a ton of valuable stuff was to sell to a fence. I don't know. But the both times I played, I almost always preferred to keep my money and not contribute. After all, it virtually affects nothing if you're okay with having no camp medicine and ammo for convenience sake. Even if you don't go out of your way to hunt for the gang, Pearson will cook regardless, so there's no real incentive to do anything for the camp because as much as the game makes you feel bad for not doing so, it virtually changes nothing in the grand scheme of things because being low on anything affects literally nothing, and like I stated, Pearson will make food regardless of stock availability. If Rockstar had made the camp a vital part of the experience in terms of survivability, then there would have been more of a reason to contribute. 8. Clothing at camps. If you're like me and got the exploration map early on, then you've probably spent a lot of time in your own personal camp away from the gang than with the gang itself. I wish every time I equipped my bandana, I had the option to edit my outfit while at a personal camp. For example, like removing the jacket, rolling up shirt sleeves, removing neck items, hats, etc. If I were wearing an ascot tie and had to use a mask or bandana, then I wish next time I set up camp I could re-equip my ascot tie instead of having to go to the gang camp to put it back on. For those who don't know, when your bandana disappears for whatever reason, it unequips whatever neck item you were wearing before equipping your bandana. So I think it's cheap how Rockstar doesn't give you a faster way of equipping something that was on your player to begin with. Number 9. Too many weapons. Yes, in my honest opinion, there are too many weapons in this game. As someone who's played through this game front to back twice, I can admit that it can be tedious to juggle between so many weapons. It was manageable for the initial stages of the game, but once you acquire your offhand holster, the game not only expects you to have 2 weapons at any given time, but the gunsmith does too. Here's my issue, however. Once you kill Jim Calloway, there's almost no incentive to go out of your way and spend money on a Schofield. Granger's revolver is one of the best pistols in the game, better than Micah's, and you get it fairly recently in the beginning of the game when you first come up on Valentine. Otis Miller has a Schofield, which is also free to find and equip as you see fit. Midnight's pistol is a golden Mauser, another gun you don't have to waste money on. Same with the rare shotgun you pick off the Hermit and the rare rolling block rifle. The fact that you can buy 2 of the same guns for most of these, while the rifles you can buy another in the store, is just too much. This isn't to mention either how you can literally just discover handguns and shotguns through canon events, like the alcoholic shotgun above the fireplace, or the one from the Valentine Doctor's secret backroom that gives you a free Schofield. Throughout both of my playthroughs, I've never had to pick up so many useless weapons that I've either already had 1 or 2 of, that it really just loses the charm of having unique weapons. Those are my personal issues with the game, and I hope I've been thorough in my explanation for why I feel the way I do about them. Like I've said before, feel free to give me your thoughts and give a discussion going, because I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. This has been All Seeing Nap, and I will catch you guys in the next one.